There's a place known as the Dragon Isles, which was eventually cut from the game for a whole bunch of reasons.
This is
one of the biggest reasons.
This is the one that people think is going to be the new expansion right here. The Dragon Isles and WoW. Why they got cut from World of Warcraft.
Some information about the earliest version of the game. Did you know that the undead were originally supposed to look more human-like? In an interview with a vanilla WoW developer, they talk about how the undead were originally planned to basically decay over time. They were supposed to start off looking human, and then slowly as they progressed through the starting zone, they would lose their flesh, culminating at the end of the starting zone where the Forsaken would look like the ones we have today.
That's actually really cool. That would actually be really cool. That's awesome. It just didn't happen.
The reason they abandoned this feature was because they just did not have the tech to pull it off at the time.
It was 2004.
And also, the undead areas were the last ones to be added to the original game. So they definitely did not have time to flesh out the zone where they really like their ambitious pre-planning stages. Although it would have been a neat feature to have lore-wise, to see the undead slowly decay as you come to terms with your character's new existence.
Yeah.
And they kind of pulled this off with the Worgen starting zone, where you start off as a human and then slowly turn into a Worgen.
Yeah,
although the Worgen have the ability to swap between their human form anyway, and they already have human models in the game.
I always thought the Worgen, like the entry level, like the storyline for Worgen was really good. Like I actually liked it. It had like cinematics to it. It had like characters that were important. Like it was very well put together. I liked it a lot.
That one was a no-brainer to add to their starting zone. And also, did you know, if you leave the Worgen starting zone before you get bit by a Worgen, you just automatically learn how to turn into a Worgen once you enter combat for the first time. It used to be you could stay in human form forever if you managed to escape, but they fixed that after a couple of expansions.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Located in the Death Knight starting zone are a series of skeleton NPCs known as the Scourge Sky Darkeners, whose only job is to rain arrows upon the nearby town the Death Knight are attacking. One of the skeletons will offer you a quest called Tonight We Dine in Havenshire, which has you go around the town in order to collect some of the Serenite arrows that they've been raining down, because they're only found at Northrend and they're in limited supply. Now, this quest, as well as the NPCs, are all obvious references to the movie 300, as one of the lines in the movies is, "Spartans, ready your breakfast and eat hearty, for tonight we dine in hell." And also, there's a scene in the movie where the Persian army threatens the Spartans by saying they have so many soldiers on their side and their arrows will blot out the sun, to which they reply that they'll just fight in the shade then. Hence the name of the Sky Darkeners of the Bowman skeleton, which is just
Whenever I bought my TV, whenever I worked at the IRS back in the day, the first movie I ever watched on my big screen TV was 300.
Reinforced by the name of the quest that they provide. In Alpha WoW, before they had talent trees which went live in the classic version of the game, all players had this talent point interface, which would allow you to spend your talent points in order to increase the power level of your character. Like if you wanted to increase the damage with two-handed axes specifically, you could spend 10 talent points to increase it by 1. If you wanted some fire resistance, you could spend 10 talent points to increase it by 4, increasing it as you bought more of the ranks. This system is also where you would get your professions, so you'd have to choose to give up player power in order to be able to craft items and consumables.
Oh my god.
Eventually, this system was scrapped, and then players were given the talent trees in beta, which stayed in the game all the way until Mist of Pandaria. Although
Destruction Warlocks, didn't they used to have in like the alpha a talent called Holocaust? Like I'm pretty sure they did, right? Yeah, it was Holocaust. Yeah, it was a real it's like, yeah, it's got another definition and it doesn't necessarily mean the thing that happened in the 40s. But why don't we just come up with another name anyway, man?
This little window of purchasing specific skills wasn't entirely abandoned either, as the Hunter class had a very similar window in order to train their pets. Whereas when your pet would level up, they would gain loyalty points, which you would then use to purchase their basic attacks, cooldowns, and all of their extra stats, like granting extra armor, health, and very specific resistances. So you could choose to give your pet a lot of fire resistance and have no frost resistance at all, for example. And the original pet training panel was incredibly unintuitive and would show you skills that you couldn't actually train.
I could never figure it out. Like, honestly, I remember Zach had a hunter. His hunter's name was Orc Boy. And we had, like, a level fucking 25 crab. And we couldn't train this thing for shit. Like, we didn't know how it works. It's like, well, we go to, we go to the pet trainer. And he's got a bunch of green things, but why would I want him to have armor? Because I want him to attack. Oh, bro. Like, oh my god. Do you want to go to 7-Eleven, man? And then the crab never got training. Basically, that's what happened. Yeah, the crab never really made much progress.
Your active pet, and didn't have a way to sort the abilities at all. So just kind of a mess that was abandoned in Wrath of the Lich King. So they did kind of keep the old talent point system. It was just stripped of its previous functionalities and only applied to 100
I thought they were
pets.
really cool.
Located in Area 52 during the second to last quest of the quest chain provided by Dr. Vomisa, PhD, is a quest known as You Robot, which has you test drive a robot against another one named Negatron. Now, during the quest chain, you've basically been helping this guy test drive his robots and gathering parts for him. So during this final test drive of the robot, you're supposed to fight against a Fel Reaver who is an obvious reference to Megatron, the big bad evil guy of the Transformers series, which is a cartoon and movie franchise about robots that can transform into different things.
I know that.
During the Burning Crusade, this was a pretty difficult quest to solo, and was supposed to be helped along by the robot that was provided by you, which could be accidentally dismissed if you summoned another temporary pet as part of your class. Now, the enemy bad guy Negatron also has some dialogues which are very reminiscent of his Saturday morning cartoon villain status that it's based on, where he'll say things like, "Ha ha ha, your feeble rocket is destroyed. I'll return later to finish off the rest of your puny town."
I remember that.
He says
yeah,
this
it's
in
whenever
all
you
caps,
failed
of
the
course.
quest, right?
And the quest it's associated to is itself a reference to the short story and full-length movie, I, Robot, which doesn't really have any...
I remember, like, it was like every, 6 months to 8 months, Will Smith would come out with a new movie, and, back in, the late 90s, the early 2000s, we would all go to see it. It doesn't matter, what the movie was about. It didn't have anything to do with it. If Will Smith comes out with a new movie, bro, you go down to Blockbuster and you rent that shit.
Nothing to do with this quest or Transformers, other than the fact that they both have robots in them. In the game files and even some of the promotional materials for early vanilla WoW, there's a place known as the Dragon Isles, which was eventually cut from the game for a whole bunch of reasons.
This is
one of the biggest reasons
this is the one that people think is going to be the new expansion right here.
Found out, thanks to the WoW Diary book, is that the Dragon Isles didn't really make sense from a lore standpoint.
Well, that makes sense why they're adding it into the game now, because they don't care about that anymore. Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. Oh, it doesn't make sense from a lore perspective? I don't know what that means. I can't read. Haha, we're going to do it anyway.
In Warcraft lore, all of the dragons are good except for the black dragons. So they couldn't easily make a zone for adventurers to go into to kill stuff because there's so few variations of bad dragons. And there were already a couple of zones with black dragons in the game as enemies already.
That's true.
In fact, some of the developers asked Chris Metzen, the guy responsible for a lot of WoW's lore, to just let them make other colors of dragons enemies. That way they could have more variation to their enemies, but he always just gave them a hard no, because that's not how his lore worked out. So every time you fight a dragon in-game that's not a black dragon, there's always some special reason they're an enemy. Usually due to madness or mind control or something, and rarely because of something they did of their own volition. However,
let me think about that. Icranius? I'm thinking a sunken temple. What about the world boss? True Veil? Well, Veil was getting MC'd. Fire, death, destruction, flee mortals. Well, everybody knows that. Azurgos, Vexiona. Well, Vexiona was a Twilight Drake, and that's a different thing. Because what happened is, Chris Metzen, it didn't happen. They made new races of dragons with, the Infinite Dragonflight, the Chromatic Dragonflight, and then the Twilight Dragonflight. So they did actually do this later on. Malagos? Didn't Malagos go crazy? I thought Malagos was crazy. And then they killed him, and then Kalagos took over. And then Kalagos, whenever you fought him I think, you know what? I'm pretty sure he's right about this.
Another reason the Dragon Isles was cut was because they were having a hard time just designing the place. And a lot of the neat, fancy ideas they had just didn't flow very well with character models they were actually trying to put in them to test. And lastly, they found out they didn't actually need very many zones or dungeons. You see, what happened was they had planned for the Dragon Isles as well as the zones of Grim Batol, Tol Barad, and Karazhan to be in Vanilla WoW. And one of the things Vanilla WoW did that no other game did at the time was trying to navigate players through a zone by giving them breadcrumb quests that they could send them places.
Wow.
And during the Friends and Family Alpha, players really loved the quest and wanted more of them. So they added extra quests to have players do more things inside the zones, rather than just send them to far reaches of the zone to explore and grind mindlessly. And as quoted by the WoW Diary book, the only way to keep players in an appropriate zone was by adding far more quests than originally planned. By creating so many quests, WoW had accidentally created compelling solo content. which arguably became the game's strongest ingredient for success with the broad market of casual players.
Yeah, it did.
Providing that much enjoyable solo content was never planned, budgeted, or even prioritized. It was stumbled upon. By trying to solve a navigation problem, we'd inadvertently engaged a larger audience, namely the solo players. So
I think that actually is one of the big reasons why like WoW Classic was so good, is that you could make a lot of meaningful progress whenever you were solo. And you could also make really meaningful progress whenever you had a group, right? Because you do like Dead Mines or Scarlet Monastery and get like these really powerful blue items. Like, I think like there were just so many things with like vanilla WoW that were just like accidental huge successes. And it's really weird to go back and think about that with how many different things that were added into vanilla WoW or that happened in vanilla WoW that the devs themselves just admit were an accident. They're like, oh yeah, we accidentally made this game amazing. We accidentally did this perfect thing.
Because of the game design of creating more quests to do in a zone, they didn't actually need to create as many zones as they thought they would. So they cut a couple of their planned zones so they could save them for later, with Dragon Isles being the only one from that list that has still yet to make it to the game. And just for some context on how many quests vanilla WoW had compared to its competitors, a single zone in World of Warcraft had more quests than the entire game of EverQuest.
New World, yeah, I know. I played that game before. Yeah, I know. And yeah, no, you're right. Like WoW had, ironically, Silithus had like less quests than like any other zone in the game. But like overall, yeah, WoW had way more, way more quests. And like I didn't like the grinding. Like I watched people play. Like the way that I determine if I want to play a game or not is I just watch somebody play the game. It's that simple. I judge a book by its cover. And so like I watched somebody play EverQuest. I was like, this looks like garbage. I watched somebody play WoW, and I was like, this looks really cool. I'm going to play it. And that's how I make every decision with all the games, is I just watch somebody play it, and if it looks cool, I fucking play it.
WoW has had many battlegrounds over the years. However, did you know there are 3 unused battlegrounds almost fully completed in the files? First off, we have Azshara's Crater. A battleground I'm sure some of you know of, was originally planned for vanilla WoW, and it was even given a location in Azshara, a large crater made into
See, this is the kind of stuff I hope they do in like the next season of Mastery. Like, I would love if Blizzard just get some of the like the youngest and brightest and most ambitious developers Blizzard has and tell them, listen, we want you love vanilla WoW, you love classic WoW, we want you to go apeshit. Like, make a version of the game that is what you imagine the game to be like whenever you were a kid. Like, that's what I want to see. Because I actually think that, like, if they develop Classic Plus, it actually has maybe a bigger future than Retail WoW. Because Retail WoW just has so much bloat and so much, like, vestigial systems and just, like, these unnecessary things that are involved with it. And just like a certain amount of just like spectacle creep almost with like the amount of mounts and how cool they look and everything, that you need kind of a reset button. And I would love if Classic Plus could be the reset button. And I'm hoping that the next season of Mastery is able to do that.
The map, with roads even put for Alliance and Horde to get there. But there was nothing ever done with this place. Also, sadly, as this map was removed, so we can't view it anymore, and its final complete state is not even visible in the map files, so we'll be using some footage from Haven Games for this section. The first real version of this map appears in 0.9 beta for WoW Vanilla, and appears to have some massive crater set in Azshara, with a Night Elf village and Orc town set within. On top of that, a couple of ruins, and that's about it. It was super basic, but quite large. Then comes 0.10, the map is completely changed, this version being 3 craters connected by gates between the cliff sides, with assumed a Horde camp in the bottom left, and Alliance camp in the north.
I really wish that they had more BGs that function the same way that like Ashran and like Alterac Valley and Isle of Conquest worked. Like, I like the idea of like a battleground and there's like PvP and PvE elements to it. Ashran was a mess. It was, but like at the same time, I think Isle of Conquest is actually one of the best BGs Blizzard has ever made. And I know people were like, what the fuck do you mean? But like, I actually thought it was really, really good. And I liked it a lot. I know there's a lot of people that like they. Yeah, I thought it was good. A lot of people don't like it because it just takes them a long time. But I like the idea of like having large scale BGs because it just makes me feel like I'm more in like a war or like a battle rather than just like a little skirmish like in a 10v10. It makes it feel like more epic.
Version is much more complete, although even then, the next update to the zone would come in patch 1.0. The Alliance camp would be massively reverted, becoming far more basic, oddly enough, which would be followed up by the final version, a complete version that's map file has been all too hard to acquire, giving a full scale to the area, really cool, but has yet to be used. This zone is so complete, people have even been able to make a fan-made map of the area. The battleground is really assumed to have worked in the same vein as Alteric Valley, with resources and capture points, push it into your enemy's land and securing structures, although with only one faction camp each.
I feel like Blizzard doesn't really care about PvP anymore. Am I weird for thinking that? Like, they don't really care about it anymore. Like, it's not like you remember back in the day, whenever, like, PvP felt like it was 50% of the game? Now, I feel like PvP is, like, 10% of the game. In, like, Wrath, in, like, Wrath and BC, man. And, like, Kata, too. I think in Mists of Pandaria has never really kind of trailed off. They stopped making content for it. In Wrath of the Lich King, you had, like, Wintergrasp. You had the arena seasons that actually, like, they were, like, fully fleshed out. You had, like, all these new pieces of armor and everything. And then, like, Cataclysm, you brought in, like, raided battlegrounds. And, like, that was a really big fucking deal. You had, like, this cool new gear. Everybody was doing PvP. Like, Mists of Pandaria didn't really do fucking much of anything with PvP. And then WoD had, like, Ashran, and there was, like, a bunch of problems with it. I thought it was fun, but, like, it was also fucked up. And then Legion was, like... I don't think they really did much of anything with Legion PvP except for, like, the little world quests that were, like, they were fun, but they were also really stupid. And then BFA, it was weird because, like, BFA, I felt like in BFA they were going to, like, bring back PvP. You know, they were doing war mode, they were adding war fronts, they were doing, like, these world PvP objectives and stuff like that. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. It just didn't really happen. But with Shadowlands, I feel like, man, what are they doing, man? Like, what happened in Shadowlands? Like, what have we gotten in Shadowlands for PvP? Am I a vendor? But we had that. But yeah, we already had a vendor. They just gave it back. Shadowlands gave us Peekaboo Gatekeeping 1800. Oh no, sounds like somebody got farmed. Fucking conduits. Yeah, it's like, where's the... Like I straight up, I really believe this. I really believe that the world PvP changes that Blizzard made in BFA were good. I think that the idea of the plane that flies around and drops the little the supply chests that you fight over in the zones, I think that is unironically cool. Like, that is an unironically cool, awesome idea. And I'm just sad that the chests aren't bigger and they don't have more consequence to them. Lagfest though, yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, I wish they made PvP a bigger part of the game without making it super competitive. Like, they don't have to make it like this fucking MLG shit. I just want them to make PvP fun to do. Like, I used to log on, like, when was the last time I did a BG? I don't even know. It's just, war mode's so bad, but it doesn't have to be.
This may have been a bigger focus on capturing neutral objectives and gathering resources to use to defeat your enemy, instead of them simply being buffs that you need to take out so you can defeat their enemy boss.
Yeah.
This battleground is fully set up aesthetic-wise, so all the groundwork is done for Blizzard to finally give us this BG. Although I guess the visuals are a bit outdated now. Next, we have Defend of the Alehouse, and this time map files that are actually still in game. So this BG was added in patch 5.4.7, meaning at the end of Mists of Pandaria, and just sat untouched since. This map has a Horde and Alliance side, and the Horde a more autumn appearance and the Alliance a more spring. This map very much has a MOBA-like appearance, and may have been planned to be exactly that, as the name Defense of the Alehouse is a reference to the original MOBA Defense of the Ancients, and shares a lot of similarities. First off, with multiple lanes where NPCs would path down to fight each other, with players supporting them, while there is multiple side objectives, a Jade Tiger Shrine and Shaw-infested outcrop on the east, and a ruined...
They don't want to take any, they don't want to take any risks with doing this stuff, and I feel like it would be so cool if we had this. And like, let's say it's bad. Well, then take it out of the game. Then just make it better. Yeah, then just get rid of it, right? I mean, that's the thing. I think that Blizzard is too... And this is like one thing that I'm glad that they're doing with Torghast, is that Torghast on release, let's be honest, guys, it sucked. But they've made Torghast better, and I think that Torghast right now in the game today is in the best state that it's been in ever. So they're actually improving. Still sucks, yeah, but it sucks less, and that's impressive. That's good, and I'm glad about that. And here's why I'm saying this, okay? It went from a 2 of 10 to a 4 of 10? Sure, but a 4 of 10 is fuckable, and a 2 of 10 isn't. So, at least for me. So, what I'm trying to say is that I am glad that they are improving the game. That they are making a positive change in a direction. You see what I'm saying? That's all I mean. You know what they did with Island Expeditions? Nothing. They did literally nothing with Island Expeditions. They had a great feature in the game. Island Expeditions could have been so cool, and they did nothing with them. I'm glad they're making new stuff.
Tree Husk and Mogu Encampment to the west. This BG really does look well made, and with its somewhat up-to-date appearance, could be added if Blizzard figures out how to make a MOBA work in WoW. And our last of the three is simply called Warcraft Heroes. Added to the game files with the launch of World of Draenor, this map very much also gives off the appearance of a MOBA. Seems at the end of MOB, Blizzard really wanted to try making a WoW MOBA battleground, as with how close these are together, I assume both were in the works at the same time. Especially as these two BGs came out around the same time as Heroes of the Storm, which was a MOBA game that Blizzard had developed themselves. Maybe some practice for them, maybe a planned crossover, we may never know. But enough about all that. This zone has a very obvious Horde half and Alliance half. The zone is overall rather basic, with overall rather little work done, especially with the pathing and seemingly NPCs placed and planned, replaced by placeholder ogres. Yeah, and with this, there seems to be camps of mobs near the edge, much like you would see in the MOBA's jungle, even including a boss ogre. So there is many things we can gather from this, and this very well could have simply been...
They almost did this with Ashran, right? I mean, this is kind of like the middle guy in Ashran that you fight, and like the different factions have to fight him, etc. Like Ashran, I think the problem, like what one of the subtext to like any conversation about WoW PvP is the fact that it's so laggy. Like they had to reduce the Ashran 40v40 was unplayable. And so they just made it 20v20 or 25v25. I forgot what it was, because you just couldn't have 40 people fighting at the same time. It's just I'm trying to think of like all the times. I'll go back and I'll play some of the clips of my old classic stuff
early concept of Ashran, as it does fit into the same style, but most likely this was another attempt at making a WoW MOBA battleground.
Yeah, they've
simply through the fact that multiple lanes and even there being jungle enemies, even harking back somewhat to Warcraft 3. There is one more unused battleground called Kaladar, but I've already covered that one in depth in a different video.
That's cool.
Long story short, it's a MOBA-looking BG based on Teldrassil added in vanilla. All three of these maps are really well done, and it's a shame that at least for Ajar's Crater and Defense of the Ale House, they are pretty much entirely complete, but simply missing the mechanics required to play them. It would be nice to see them finally released in the game, although I'm sure Ajar's...
They need to have, like, for PvP, I think they need better systems for PvP. Like, just straight up better systems that are more rewarding. Because right now, I think there's almost no systems in the game that are fulfilling for PvPers. More systems? Yeah, absolutely. See, systems are not supposed to be bad. Like, I don't think that systems are fundamentally bad. I think that the systems that we have are bad. Because there are really good systems in the game that work really well. But there aren't PvP ones that are very good.
Crater would have to come in some time walking event or a Classic Plus. But let's hope these broken BGs get their time to shine. Maybe even in some kind of Warfront return, as the best way to make a WoW MOBA in the BG may be to amalgamize the Warfront system.
If only.
It was
fucking if only. I would be so happy if they went back. Like if Blizzard went back and they said, hey, listen, we're going to redo what the Warfront system was going to be for WoD, or not WoD, the other bad one, BFA, because we think we could make it way better. I'd be like, great, I'm happy, I want to see it. Like, yeah, that's what it comes down to. I'd love to see that. Asmongold, World PvP Classic. Fuck is this? He just destroyed us. Oh my. Oh. Where is it? Stay off your mounts. Let me see if I can get a good point. With us. Look how many people we had. Look how fucking insane this was. Look at them all. This was so fucking badass, man. And like everybody was lined up.
I'm my warrior right now. I'll give him 5 more minutes, okay? I'll give him 5 more minutes, man. What
Look
the
at all those
this,
people.
Dude? Layer swap for my group. Wait, there's a whole other group on a different layer?
Look at that.
Wait, what? Oh, 5 more minutes.
Look at all those fucking people. Like, this, in my opinion, is like, this was supposed to be... This is what I thought WoW PvP was supposed to always be like.
Start running this way right now.
And there were just so many... Look at that, dude. Bro, this was like the fucking... This was such a big fucking day. Yeah, loose gaggle. Yeah.
Servers are fine.
And dude, everybody was loving it in chat, man. Oh my god.
They do their best.
We're the Alliance!
That's right.
This is our server!
We run this fucking game.
Oh my god. Look at them all, man. God,
Kill
this was
everyone.
so fucking badass.
Do not push back.
And I remember what happened was like they literally teleported out half of the people in on our raid. They teleported us all back to like Westfall, and they kept all the horde there, and so we lost. I was so fucking mad, man. Frowina? Yeah, I mean, we had some really good times, honestly. Like these like huge world PvP battles and stuff like that were actually really fun. And like, yeah, there are people that like, most people weren't even level 60 at this point. So like, if you saw somebody who was 60, it was a big deal. Like, oh my god, man. It was so fucking cool. The first time I saw you stream was during that battle. Yeah, like this stuff was so cool. So like, I just want to see like WoW PvP have more stuff of this essence. You know, more stuff of this kind of vibe. I fucking love it. Aside from frustration. No, I mean like, obviously the world PvP was only bad whenever I was trying to do like a raid or whatever. That's why I think war mode is so good, is that like you can opt into this whenever you want. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh man, I have to deal with this bullshit all the time. You just opt into it, and then you opt out of it. So you never have to worry about people like locking down a zone or any other bullshit. You mean like a PvE server? Yeah. I think war mode is a better version of a PvP server. Yeah, definitely it is. They'll reopen and redo everything in the engine before they fix the lag. I think so. I noticed people putting question marks in consent. Yeah, no, Lamau. Oh, it 100% is. Because, like, nobody wants to play a game where they're being inconvenienced. And the problem with, like, WoW PvP and, like, in Classic WoW is that people were being inconvenienced and they were having their time wasted, and it made them not want a PvP. No ganking, then? Yeah, people, like, ganking is not... This is not what they should try to develop and make into PvP. This is not a high form of gameplay. This is just moron gameplay, and it's griefer behavior. And like, yeah, it's funny. I've ganked people a lot, okay? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to preach off of some fucking ivory tower here. I've done it myself many times. However, I know that it's not, this is not a quality experience for players. The Talon's Vengeance video? Yeah, exactly. Hellfire ganking, exactly. How's this different? The reason why it's different is you can't opt out of it. Like with war mode, you can opt directly out of it, and then you don't have to worry about it. So you only have to do it when you want to. And that's what makes it good. Like, being forced into PvP will always be bad, and it will always create negativity and toxicity. Every single time, and it will make people not want to play the game. That's all there is to it. And that's exactly what happened. That is what happened with... I don't see... How can anybody disagree with me on this? This is what happened in Classic. It literally happened. We have a case study of it for, like, multiple servers. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And more on gameplay. Sounds more fun than whatever higher form of gameplay is, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is. If you're a 1600 player and you get farmed constantly, then yeah, I think that you probably would enjoy killing low-level players more than actually having a challenge. Absolutely. But that should not be what you aspire to. You can literally see it on every PvP server spread. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not saying this, like, randomly. I'm saying this is because this is what people have done.